Alrighty, we are live. Welcome, Pranav. How you going?
Doing good. I can see how are things going with you.
Very well, thank you. Very well. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. Appreciate
Oh
it.
yeah, of course.
So let's jump into your background because you started off as a sales professional.
Yeah,
You kind of went into marketing, BD, that kind of space, then moved into teaching,
yeah,
and you took your master's from Melbourne Uni, and then jumped into Fusion 5 as an associate functional consultant, which is a
yeah.
bit of an interesting move, a very unusual move.
Yes, it
So
is.
tell us about that. What inspired that? How'd you get there?
So if I'm starting way back, but I saw my first work experience was back home in India, and it was as a telebroker. The idea was 9 to 5, 9 to 3 when the market is open. I'm just booking in, getting calls for placing orders in the share market, and that's what I would do. And then after that, from 3 to 5:30, around 6, it was always cold calls. It was just calling people, trying to get them to buy new products that the bank would offer, and things like that. Opening accounts, opening trading accounts, what messaging services and things like that that we used to provide back then. Yeah, so that's something that was my first initial start to actually doing some sort of sales in some way through cold calls, and then also handling customers, talking to them, handling complaints and things like that, because I also speak Malayalam, which is one of the languages spoken in India. It becomes you sometimes you have complaints where there's a language barrier, where people have not understood what they've purchased and things like that. And then I would be called in to just try to sort that issue out, try to convince the customer to stay on with us, and try to see the benefits of what we're trying to provide them. Yeah, and then while studying, I applied for international business, got my invitation, so came here, did 2 years of international business. Now, the reason of doing international business was honestly, I wasn't very sure of what exactly I wanted to do. The course provided me a much more broader perspective of what could be possible. There were subjects of marketing, accounting, finance, and I thought, and a lot of business administration. So I was like, let's do this and see how it goes. And then once I finish my course, I will be able to kind of get a better call of what I'm more interested towards. So I completed that, and then I started taking up internship jobs. So I did start off with a few sales and marketing internship jobs, but then one of the internships that I also had was working for this company, an NGO, where they had they were trying to create a service with helping um, children in India in terms of education and safety and things like that. And the platform that they were using back then was Salesforce. Um, I'd never used it before. I had no idea of how to use it, but because we were an NGO, Salesforce were kind enough to give us a package where we could learn and basically self-study and progress and create whatever we wanted on Salesforce platform. So I started off with that, and that was I did that for around 9 months, and then afterwards I decided, well, look, this is not leading me to a job, and at the end of the day, in some way, I think I want to find myself somewhere where I could say I'm working and I can continue to stay back here, you know, and find my footing, basically. So yeah, with international business, because most of my subjects were more related to management, and in terms of jobs, it was much more harder with the lack of experience. I decided, why not study further, do something more. So I decided to take up teaching, only because I felt that is one way of me giving back to the community in a way. It was honestly something that was more to fulfill, um, uh, just an inner feeling of giving back to the community. So I did that. I did my bachelor's in teaching. And then I worked. I worked for around, I think, almost 3 years as a teacher. Uh, during that period, I honestly never thought I'm going back to, working in any sort of company or organization with a proper 9 to 5 job and things like that. I was very happy with the things, the way they were progressing and going. Yeah, but then what honestly made me drive is, let's be honest, teaching is not something that it's hard to continue the profession when you know that your career progression is quite slow, and then also it becomes hard to sustain in a lifestyle where your day-to-day living, where you're just the only bread winner in the house, and then that's also hard to financially sustain yourself in that profession. So I thought maybe I should take a try, make use of my master's degree again. And but I did not want to jump in straight into something without having with having a gap in my education system and my work experience. So I decided to do a diploma. Yeah, did my diploma. That took another 2 years, and during COVID was doing that through online classes. Once that got completed, I thought I'm in the right path and I can start looking at job opportunities. Um, I got in touch with you, so, was recommended through LinkedIn, and a few friends who've been following you. So I got in touch with you, uh, started using all your provided services. Through your help, set up my resume, LinkedIn profile, and got a hang of how to network and meet people, message them, send cold messages. Started doing that and got quite a couple of interviews related to sales. I remember in the initial start itself, and that gave me that boost to then, hey, this process works. All I need to do is just keep going at it. Yeah, and then another thing that I also realized was that though I had moved different to a different profession, there were other people who had studied with me and who had studied previously, who continued in that profession and continued to move on. So they had that work experience, they had that networking ability, and they had they. And because I knew them, I decided I should get in touch with them again, see what they're up to, see if they can, help me just meet someone, talk to someone, and things like that. And just find like just get my like foot between the door and just let me then find my way from there on. So yeah, so I got in touch with a friend of mine who was still working at Fusion 5, and I told him, look, this is my experience. There's honestly not a lot. And I know what y'all are doing is not, y'all don't work on Salesforce, y'all work on Microsoft platforms. But I have worked on Salesforce. I've done a little bit of self-studying there, and I think if I get a good amount of training and some space to learn, then I'll be able to pick up and quickly get going from there. Yeah, so he helped me set up just a coffee catch up with one of the directors, and that meeting turned out to be a good one where it's the you could say that was sort of an interview, because I never had a formal interview after that. That was just a coffee catch up. He just had questions about what I've done previously, how it worked, and what I'm looking for. And he was very happy with me, and just being open to getting training and giving exams and certifications and learning. And he, as long as I was happy to do that, he was fine with me being a part of the company. Yeah, so that's how I then got into IT. So I was working as a associate functional consultant, still working at Fusion 5. And it's been a very interesting and a very nice ride, something that I've really enjoyed. It's been challenging, but at the same time, it's been amazing, because I think everything that I started with, that I thought with in terms of sales, in terms of marketing, in terms of all my experiences with customers, with problem solving and everything, that all just came together and sat so well, because I feel that's the overall thing about a consultant is all these skills do definitely come down together, And yes, the technical part is something that is required, but if you're happy to train yourself and go through that learning phase again, just to get that technical information, I think the rest skills is the soft skills that we say, that we always talk about. Those are the things that are really important. And I think for me, although I worked in different sections, even with teaching, in terms of dealing with parents, dealing with children, dealing, like making plans and things like that, in terms of learning development plans and things like that for children, I think all that in some way just came together and fit perfectly, like sort of a completed puzzle, to help me realize that this is exactly what I want to do, and I'm happy doing it. Yeah, sorry, that
Fantastic.
was long.
That was great. Really good story. You painted the picture well. And so I think what a lot of people will be curious to know is, why do you think they picked you for this role? Because and why I say that is because a lot of people would come to me and say, Mackenzie, this is a dream role. I want to be a consultant. I want to work in tech and IT, but it's so competitive. It's tricky to get in, and I don't have a lot of experience. But then with your very unique background, they've just given you a shot. What do you think made them want to do that?
Well, I think a couple of things. Initially, definitely the part that when I was doing my internship, there was this desire to learn something new right from the start. And then also the fact that whatever learning I was able to do on Salesforce was by myself. It wasn't that I was being trained for doing that. And although, yes, Salesforce and Microsoft, they are two different platforms, they work differently. But then I think the drive that you need to have, and you need to be able to show that to whoever the recruiter is. The idea is that you're trying to let them know that you are always ready to learn, you're always ready to, keep training and learn on the job. And you're happy to take up challenges, because for me, I remember, I think the first 4 months is when I was not on a project and I was just doing self-training. But that honestly didn't, although it helped, it wasn't something where I learned most of my stuff. The things that I really learned was when I was put on a project, when I was put, when your back is facing to the wall, and when you, at that point of time, which most of the times you're going to be working as a consultant, you're put into a room where you're trying to understand what your client does, what they want, and you're trying to help them solve a problem. You're never going prepared with all your answers. You're trying to find answers with them at that point. And being able to do that and showing that you're able to do that with your previous experiences, irrespective of what background it comes from, that itself shows that you'll be able to learn this stuff. Because at the end of the day, adding 2 + 2 is something that can be taught, but wanting to add it or thinking about how this can be done is something that only comes from your experience. And that's something you need to build on.
And so do you think also, it seems like your experience using Salesforce was kind of interesting to them because it was a very similar platform. Do you think
Yes.
that was a differentiator for you?
Yes, that was definitely a differentiating one. As I said, there was some technical information, some background related to that, working on platforms, creating forms, creating pages. And then at the other end, I think also the desire to be honest. I remember having a conversation with the director and telling, look, I have not worked on Salesforce for quite some time now, and it's been good 4 or 5 years in between that gap. Plus, this is a different platform completely. Back then, Microsoft wasn't that big when Salesforce was, when I was working on Salesforce. So I have not much of an idea, but I'm happy to learn. I'm ready to take up this challenge and, go through the initial hard work, but I know this is what I want to do. I enjoy talking to people. I enjoy I enjoy problem solving. And something that I've always been interested is about how businesses and companies work. And that's something as a consultant, you really get to enjoy, meeting people from different industries and understanding how things work. So that was something that really interested me. So I felt I'm able to take all the other boxes what I need to do is just the technical, and if given an opportunity, then I'm happy to even get that sorted out.
And when you met the director for the first time over coffee, were they hiring, or did he kind of create an opportunity for you?
Yeah, so there wasn't a role on LinkedIn anywhere. They hadn't placed an ad for a job opportunity. Essentially, it was just because it had come through a referral. They knew the person. They could back my friend, and they knew that they, and that's the reason why he agreed to have a coffee with me. Yeah, and that conversation just led to, you know what, we why not, why not hire someone. It's a growing market, and if there's someone who's interested in learning, then there's always an opportunity in the company.
That's awesome. And your friend who worked there, what position was he or she?
Oh, so he was more on the customer technical issue side. He was not working in the same pillar as me. My pillar is CEC, Microsoft CEC itself. So it was a completely different pillar, but he just knew the director. So yeah, he just had that conversation, and that led to it.
That's fantastic. And you must have made a really good impression during that coffee chat.
Yeah, and I honestly, something that I don't know how much this helped, but he definitely made a big difference as well in terms of how the whole meeting was, because I remember dressed up completely, like I'm sweating, I'm worried, I don't know how this is going to go, things like that. There's a lot on the line, and I remember, came in casually. We ordered coffee, we just sat down. It did not feel that it was an interview at any point of time. It was more about just a catch-up session, sort of between two people who haven't met for a very long time, and you're just trying to know what's happening in your life, what you're up to, what you've been doing, and things like that. And that just ended up being the interview. And after that, I remember he said, "You know what? Let's do another meeting with my manager as well." And this is it's again, don't be worried that this is going to be something that's going to be intense and with a lot of questions. Is just to see, it's just so that they have an experience of talking to you. Yeah, and that happened, I think, within 2 days. And then once that was done, yeah, they were happy to provide me with a contract.
Fantastic. And you went straight into a role, right? Not into an internship first?
No,
straight into
straight into a role. The first 3-4 months, I was given enough time to just do some training. They had provided me, he had given me a proper list of everything that I need to learn, things that I need to get familiar with on the platform, in terms of building and things like that. And then afterwards, I was put on my first project with a senior consultant, and then he also, during the project, guided me a lot in terms of just what should be built, how it should be done, and things like that. So I was kind of provided a sort of protective bubble, but at the same time, it was on the job, working on a project experience. Yeah, and then from there on, then it just kept building up from there.
Awesome. So in short, if we have to kind of package this up for people who want to do the same thing, it's the first thing is getting your resume sorted. I think you've got your LinkedIn sorted, figuring out which kind of jobs you really want to target. And with you specifically, you thought also, where can my skills, my unique skills that I have available right now, how can that be a kind of a strength for me? And you realize, okay, I've got experience in Salesforce with these kinds of CRM softwares. Maybe I can do consulting in that field.
Yeah.
So finding your unique advantages, where you can leverage to get into where you want to go. Then you had a warm connection at the company, and you kind of networked your way in to have a chat with one of the decision makers, and from there led to the offer. So I guess someone could kind of follow that same blueprint, really. I mean,
100%.
they might say you had a warm contact, which they couldn't have, but I think we both know you don't need a warm contact. You can kind of create a contact in there as well. It just takes a bit more effort, but
yeah. And also, Mackenzie, I'm not sure whether you remember, but during my initial periods when I had just set up the LinkedIn profile and we had worked on it and we had worked on the resume, when I was applying for sales and marketing roles, I did receive interviews. I did receive an offer letter. I remember we having a conversation about the offer letter and what I should be doing. Where should I be going ahead with it and things like that. So clearly that method and that path was working. It's not like it wouldn't have clicked. Whether a warm contact or no, whether I would have had this job or no, I know for a fact that if I kept hitting and kept doing this, getting in touch with people through LinkedIn, sending them messages, trying to get in touch, setting up more interviews, it has to click because what you're doing is you're just going on meeting more and more people. You're showcasing, you're just gaining confidence when you're talking to them. Maybe the first time you don't know what to say, you're not sure, but the second or the third time you're going to be, and that is bound to happen. So you're just going to keep doing it. It's sort of like training yourself to get a job and showcase yourself.
Definitely. And I think the networking aspect's so powerful because every time you connect with someone, whether it's a chat, whether it's a in-person coffee, a video call, not only are you potentially getting an opportunity to get hired, but like you mentioned, you're upskilling yourself, right? You're getting better at communicating. You're getting better at going into uncomfortable situations. You're getting better at interviewing. And it's like it's just a win-win-win-win-win situation. Whereas, of course, you can get jobs applying online, and that's perfectly fine. But it's not the same. When you're just sitting there applying all day, you're not getting any sort of additional benefit other than the potential, like, small percentage chance you get to that interview, right? Whereas networking, full of good stuff.
Yeah, I think human interaction definitely makes a big sense. Me sitting behind a desktop and reading someone's resume does not make a lot of difference because I'm not connecting to the person on the other side. The moment I'm looking at the person, meeting the person or coffee, there is more of a stronger bond, a sort of a trust that you're able to build, which you cannot do that through a screen or just through paper. And for doing that, yes, it takes time, but the more you do it, the more better you get at knowing what is it someone's looking for and what exactly are you providing them for enticing them to just set up one meet. And that's all you need.
And there's a lot of people out there who maybe they're following a similar strategy to you. They've done a little bit, they've put a bit of effort in, but it hasn't quite worked out for them yet. What would you say to them? What's the solution?
Yeah, this is a tricky part. I know from my own past experiences, you're bound to come across some failures. That's if it was so easy, then this wouldn't be a thing, right? I think one thing to remind yourself is to constantly do something. Look, applying for the job and trying to meet people, setting up cold calls and things like that. You just follow the guidelines. You do as you guided. Mackenzie's here, and there's everything on the school platform to give you that guidance, and you use them. But what's more important is to keep a positive mindset apart from this, in your day-to-day life, and that's a tricky thing. And that's where I feel it is really important. Do something that makes you happy. If it is playing a sport, going for a walk in the evening, spending time with people, cooking, reading, do something that makes you feel positive enough that when you're sleeping, when you go to sleep, you go with the intention of tomorrow, I'm going to get this again. I'm going to go back again. I'm going to talk to the person. This person has promised they're going to reply back to me. I'm going to check on them, things like that. And just reminding yourself. And I think the more while you're applying and while you're doing those things, you put your 100% dedication to it. But apart from that, the other part of it, the other hours of your day, you try to constantly only focus on doing things that make you happy, because that's going to motivate you enough and further to continue to do that. And to do that, you're going to strive furthermore to get a job and be able to continue living uh, living having a way of living that basically makes you feel happy and good.
I love that. And now we've talked a bit about the job search. Maybe let's jump into what you actually do, because I even remember back in the day when we first met. I mean, when you're trying to enter the consulting field, there are so many options, right? It's hard to know where to aim, what everyone's actually doing. I think before I interned at KPMG, I honestly probably didn't really have a clue what they did. It just sounded really cool. So I'm curious to know, what do you actually do for the people watching, so they can understand more?
Yeah, so I work with Microsoft CEC platform. This is customer engagement platforms. The platforms that I work on is sales, marketing, customer services. What I do is that when we meet a client, the client is usually using another platform, or they're using something old platform, and they're trying to rebuild, they're trying to restructure how restructure their processes. Let's say, for example, if it's a sales platform, a company related to customer service, for example, they deal with complaints, they deal with people calling them up, setting up events and things like that. Or maybe they even have where they need to have certain people go up to their customers and meet them and, rectify certain issues and things like that. So my job is then to essentially set up workshops with the company, understand what is that they do, what is it that they're looking for improvements in their current system, what are their pain points, understanding things that are not running properly, that they have issues with, and then coming up with a design, a plan of a platform that actually works and rectifies those issues and makes it easier for them to continue with their day-to-day work.
Fantastic. So kind of consulting plus sales, which I guess is kind of part of the consulting. I mean, I think that's what people don't understand as well. It's funny, when you go into consulting, you realize that the people who progress and go up more quickly and get to senior positions, they're usually just kind of better at sales, and they're able to bring in revenue, right? Which is a complete, like, I remember when I learned that when I was at KPMG, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I've been focusing so much on becoming really good at the skill, whereas to grow, you need to bring in revenue, right?
Yeah, 100%. I think part of it is, how do you deal with your relations with your customers and with your clients, how you maintain that for a long term. Your project might be just for a year, but then how do you maintain that relation with them to such an extent where that they prefer to work with you in the future. They prefer to come back to your company and say, I know I trust the people that I trust your employees, and I would rather prefer to work with you all than try to find anywhere else. Go again looking out for some other company. And that comes through that part of sales, building that relation, building that trust with your customer. And that happens throughout the project. It's not just, you're not just trying to fix something up and then close the doors on them. You're trying to see that this is not just this is actually sort of a long-term relation that you're building with them. And that definitely makes a big difference, because then it helps with the company revenue, it helps with the reputation that the company has in the market. And then it also helps, I think, with your own ability to handle situations, because then anytime when things go wrong, you're going to be the person of contact. That you're going to you have a voice, and that at the end of the day, they're going to trust what you tell them. They're going to just let you take the lead, and that's something that's very important as a consultant as well.
There's a student watching this and they want to break into consulting as well, they want to do what you're doing, they have no experience. Maybe they've got like a bachelor's in information systems or something like that, IT. How would you recommend they break in? What kind of skills should they focus on? Should they get experience? What's like, and if you're hiring, I don't know if you've been involved in the hiring process, but what do you kind of look for? Just so they can, I know we've talked about the blueprint, the steps you took to get it, but I'm curious to know what you would recommend to someone with a blank slate.
Yeah. So I think though I'm not in the hiring process and I haven't done that previously, but I think one thing that definitely I would recommend would be to get some certifications in terms of the platform that you want to work in. Like, as you said, if someone's interested in working in the with Microsoft, with Dynamics, then there are a lot of certifications that Microsoft provides. You can complete those. Try maybe building something of your own as a test example. Create situations for yourself, and then try to create them on a platform. For example, imagine that you're running a pet store and you need to keep a stock of pets, of animals that you have in your company. And if people would react, if people wanted to buy a pet, how would you interact with them? What would be the process? How would you take them through the whole process of meeting the animal, setting up so that they can come into the store? And then how would the payment process work and things like that? And then you basically create that. If not that, then maybe you're running a cafe, and how you would like your your orders to come in, your raw materials. How do you manage them? How do you manage your inventory and things like that? So I think giving yourselves those examples, putting yourself in those situations, using there are lots of videos out there online that let you learn these systems, because the whole point of Microsoft is that they want you to be able to do this by yourself. They want you to be able to teach yourself and understand the system. The idea is that the system is so easy, eventually it becomes that anyone can work on these platforms by themselves and solve their issues. So yeah, so if you want to if this is something that you find interesting, and it's not just with terms of Microsoft, if it's AWS, if it's Salesforce, you decide to take up that decision, and then you start doing certifications, and then you look for internship roles. Initial period, yes, it's not going to give you a pay, but it's going to give you an exposure. It's going to let you meet again people, and you never know, that definitely helps you in the future. Like it helped me. It's something, I did an internship that from my current job, and the internship had more than 5 years of gap, but it still helped me because that's something that I was confident at projecting, and that helped me get a job.
That's really cool. So figuring out what kind of field you want to work in, just picking something that you think is probably good, getting some technical skills. So you're showing that you're, I guess, passionate and interested in that field, which already sets you apart from 99% of grads, right?
Yeah.
Plus, you're getting some skill in that space by doing a cert or some sort of mock project or something, then getting into an internship. And I guess they could use a method like you did, like a networking strategy, or they could apply. And once you have an internship, you got your cert, you got some knowledge and passion for the field, then I guess it's going for the full-time role, right?
Yeah, that's right. And you're building yourself up to that position till then. By building a cert, you're giving yourself the technical knowledge that you have. And by doing an internship, you're kind of giving yourself the opportunity to learn those soft skills. And that then gives you the complete package to then apply for a job.
Fantastic. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much it. They're all my questions. Final question. What tips do you have for people watching on getting jobs, keeping motivated, just any final tips?
I think one thing that I learned from my friend was using LinkedIn more like your Instagram account, just making a habit of everyday mornings scrolling through LinkedIn rather than Instagram, spending some time there in the morning, following people who actually this is something that way before I had met a CEO, and they told me back home in India that the idea of getting a job and being where you want to be in 5 years is not thinking from down to up, is thinking from up to down. So for in a sense, in 5 years, if you want to be, let's say, a director, then find people on LinkedIn who are directors, who are working in the roles that you want to work in the companies that you want to work in the positions that in the field that they're working in that interests you, and then look at what they have done. If a path has worked for them, then it is bound to work for you as well. Depending on certain fields, yes, you might have to create your own path and your own ways of getting to that job. But most of the time, 99% of the time, someone has already achieved it. Someone has already done it. You just need to follow that path. You need to trust that path. And by meeting such people, by getting in touch with people, connecting with people like that on LinkedIn, you're able to, it's just a boosting mechanism for yourself to then follow that path, because you can see someone who's done that and you know who's someone who's at that position. So you just need to just keep following those steps.
Fantastic. All right. Thank you so much, Pranav. I think that's everything. Appreciate you coming on today.
Thank you so much, Mackenzie. Good day.
Ciao. See ya.
Bye-bye.